All good? I mean, I used to think that people came to these calls for the POAP, but now I think it's actually because you want to just listen to William. So, do you think I should like just shut up and just leave this to William? You can be honest.
Terrible idea.
How was the last one about the Soul Bond tokens?
I mean, I had fun talking about that. You know, I was just off my like wave of enthusiasm from reading the Vitalik et al. Paper. But there are definitely interesting ideas there, and people had sort of good questions, so there was good engagement. I don't think that's representative of though my like average contribution to these calls.
Good. Okay. Well, if you still want me to speak, I can give you a little update about what's going on. So for this week, part of larger process of thinking how we want Kleros to work from the point of view of the structure of the cooperative, and as you know, well, we have grown quite a bit, and we need to better organize. We have lots of different products that we have developed throughout the 5 years that we have been working at Kleros, and so when I was preparing, I made a short presentation today for the team, an internal presentation, and we were like I was presenting the different apps we built in the past, and to discuss among all how we want to manage those apps moving forward, because we have different options like create internal teams to manage them, or even spin them off. We also don't want to bloat the organization of the cooperative too much, because it starts to become more inefficient. As any company that grows, it's harder to manage. And it was quite impressive for me to see how many things we have built. We built first Linguo, I mean, this marketplace for translations. Then we had the tokens that it's used for verifying tokens compliance for different rules and earning badges, and we launched that in 2019. Then we have the escrow, which was the first app we ever developed, besides the court, of course. And then we have the proof of humanity, of course, dispute resolver that is mostly for internal use, and then you have curate, and so it's kind of quite complex. And many of these apps we developed to become showcase applications for people to see how Kleros will work. So you could say we were so early that we were building Kleros at some point where still the Web3 ecosystem was not enough developed so to use Kleros services. So now these days we are doing this process of reflection and see how we want to manage all this so it doesn't add complexity into the organization. That's some internal work we are doing regarding management and that. Then we spent quite some time this week making applications for DevCon. I made an application to make a presentation with JB to make a workshop on how to build a DAO. My idea, if it gets accepted, is a workshop that, let's say you're a team and you want to start building a DAO, and then you have to make different decisions about, first how to build your core team, and then you have to decide what is going to be the tech stack you want to use, and then you have to develop your strategy, and then you have to evaluate your mechanism design, and then you have to think about your legal risks, and then you have to think about communications, community building, launch, fundraising, all of these things that we have learned, I would say, the hard way over the past years we have been working at Kleros. So, I think it's going to be a cool thing to share this with the broader Ethereum community and for helping people who are working on building new DAOs. And hopefully some of those will end up being connected to Kleros. So that was my proposal, and let's see if they like it enough for accepting it. Then I'm also going to have a talk at the ETHCC. This is going to be about NFTs and compliance in the NFT market. Compliance in the sense of what NFT should be certified as, the certification badge they get at OpenSea or other platforms. And so this certification, I think, could be decentralized and could be shared across different platforms. And this would eventually solve lots of different copyright issues that affect currently NFT marketplaces. So that's going to be my presentation. So we have maybe William, you want to mention a bit about yours? You at the HCC is one, and you got the talk accepted, and then you made also an application for DevCon, right?
Yeah. So at ECC, I'm talking about sort of voting in a broad sense that doesn't exist in sort of blockchain and crypto economic mechanisms. And I'm going to contrast sort of the kinds of constraints one has on Schelling point style voting, and like in Kleros and in these Schelling points like based oracles, with kind of DAO voting. And I'm going to talk about like the different kinds of voting mechanisms people have proposed, either sort of historically in social choice theory or more recently in the blockchain community, like quadratic voting, commitment voting, like the sort of ranked choice voting, approval voting, jugement majoritaire, and broadly about like, so what are the different kinds of like goals one has in these different applications, sort of for oracles or for DAO governance, and what the constraints are. And then for DevCon, I submitted a talk about like soulbound tokens and sort of like security things that one wants to keep in mind when using them in their platform, specifically like how they could be like one example of how they could be sort of integrated into Kleros jury selection, and like what some of the kinds of like attack things to keep in mind and like mechanism design questions to make that attack resistant are. So see if they like that. Like hopefully drawing on sort of broader themes about like how to adapt like what to keep in mind for soulbound token based mechanism design.
Cool. I really want to see that one. So we have that, and then we have this week we started receiving the reports produced by the participants in the fellowship program of this cohort. I'm really impressed by the very big, high quality of the reports. So that's great. I'm really enjoying reading them and making my comments, and then we send them the report for them to then make also some final review, and then we publish them. I think this time one thing that we had never done before, but I think we should do, and I think we will do this time, is like make kind of final day for all of the participants in the fellowship of this batch, and so they can make a lightning talk type of presentation where they present what they studied and the report, and a short like PowerPoint presentation of like maybe 10 minutes of their findings. So I think this is really good for the broader community. I'm going to try to organize that. It's always hard to synchronize different agendas of people who are in different parts of the world, but I think that will be really valuable. I will try to do that. So spend a lot of my time this week reading all of these reports, and also writing with William, Jan, and Yamila an article, some literature review compendium of different elements that were discussed about Kleros since in the past couple of years. So as you know, Kleros already is, well, in some ways, already a kind of mainstream project within the legal innovation field, and we have lots of papers citing Kleros and from different angles. This is also what what is very interesting, that we get people who get interested from the point of view of computer science, from the point of view of mechanism design, and from the point of view, of course, of law, from the point of view of institutional economics, from the point of view of startups. Other people are interested in how, well, lots of things. Because it's so cross-discipline. So we are doing some review of all of the work that was done in order to try to present the current stage of decentralized justice, present what we think are the main problems moving forward, and which we think would be interesting for people to put their brains at, and the main problems that where people could help solving the problems that the decentralized justice as a field has, in order to become more acceptable in different use cases. So that's also one thing that we are working on these days. Then I don't know, maybe William, do you have anything to add about that, as we are working on that together? Maybe have some comment.
Yeah, I mean, not really. Like we're sort of summarizing, like in a lot of ways, like the kinds of technical parts of that I'm going to add to this paper are things that we've talked about before in different kinds of presentations and blog articles, but we're going to put them together in a way that's digestible for a self-contained academic audience.
Yeah. So William, you mentioned the Schelling point mechanism that you will have in your talk. As we know that there are weaknesses as well with this kind of mechanism, like Vitalik published in 2015 blog posts about it. We had at Kleros some discussions about forks. I mean, this kind of subjectivocracy. How far is this developed? Like a forking mechanism.
Yeah, so we've done research on a specific forking mechanism that's detailed in the yellow paper, and it's intended for that to be integrated into V2. So as I understand, like the initial version of V2, I don't think is intended for that to like that won't, like when V2 first launches, that won't necessarily be launched with it. But there'll be a placeholder for it so that it can be activated by governance probe when it's ready. Basically, it's a mechanism to help people coordinate around forks if that's necessary in the case of a large-scale attack or a large community disagreement. Notice that one can always just sort of copy the clone all of the contracts and launch sort of a community-oriented fork, which is something that one could do now, and if there was a really large attack or a really large community disagreement. But something that makes Kleros different than some other protocols that talk about forking, like Ogre has an internal forking mechanism, I think, in their Oracle, is that because our questions are subjective, you wind up with situations where there might be really narrow votes, where that's just because people disagree about what the right answer is, but they're all sort of being honest, and they don't necessarily have some kind of fundamental disagreement that would require a division of the community. But anyway, it's being developed. It's not the very first priority for the launch of V2, but the way V2 is being designed is modular, so things can be added, and that's sort of a relatively high priority.
Yeah, also about V2, go ahead.
Oh, it's not forgotten. It's it's still on our bucket list.
Yeah, it's not forgotten.
No, of course. I mean, we already released the specs of V2, and this is going to be done as it was released. So we're just going to release this in stages. I don't know if JB is here today. JB is following closer the day-to-day. He's managing the day-to-day development of the V2. So we will do with him soon, as soon as he thinks it's ready, another presentation of another demo of the V2. I think the next thing we will be able to show is the fast bridge. So this is something that is not Kleros specific. It's a development we are doing that could potentially be used by other projects, and we have had different questions from different projects. I can't mention much of the names, but how to use this for other purposes besides what Kleros does. So as soon as JB thinks that this is already ready, we are going to make a demo as we did last time. That's the news with V2. I think everything is well with development, more or less on schedule. So that's about V2. Let me think, what else do we have? Well, maybe, William, you want to have some update about your research besides the presentations, the talks that you applied to for the conferences.
Yeah, I mean, not much. Part of the week I spent like preparing my UTC talk, so that took up some of my time. I'm continuing to edit like an academic article on social choice theory that I probably talked about on this call before, but it's undergoing a long review process for an academic journal. So that's wrapping up and probably send it back to them. So hopefully they'll be happy with those edits. There's a blog post that I've written that people may see soon. Keep an eye out for that. So not much to report beyond that. But
okay.
So Vitalik will be as well at the event.
Vitalik, what?
Will be Vitalik also at the events at these conferences?
I mean, I don't manage Vitalik's agenda, but I mean, he tends to go to, the past conferences, he was there. He went to the ETHEC, he was there. At DevCon, I imagine he's going to be there. So, I guess, because I cannot tell for sure.
Yeah, when I remember, he was like supporting Kleros, like officially, like in his talks, that he said, yes, it's a good project and it's one of the most like underrated projects that need to have more exposure, kind of. But I think it was like in his. I mean, not at the beginning. So, I mean, my question is, why? I mean, or was it from the beginning? No, I think it was later on the stage, right? That he supported Kleros, like it was already developed.
I mean,
am I right?
Vitalik has mentioned Kleros many times in different contexts. So of course, I think he appreciates the team and he thinks of what we are building. The technology we're building, I think he sees this as important for the development of Ethereum, in particular having a human layer for adjudicating number of claims involving, what you already know. So he, of course, had also some concerns in the past, and he was vocal about concerns. There was this very interesting debate that involved Nathan Schneider, Vitalik, and of course William here about what type of situations can be what they call in this debate financialized and which no. I think soul-bound tokens are going to be interesting for some use cases where maybe the financialized solutions maybe are not the best. This is really an early stage field in general. There's a lot of learning we are doing, us and also Vitalik. The first times that Vitalik mentioned Kleros, I mean, this was extremely early stage. It was like 2018 or something like that. We had not even tested Kleros with any case. So there's lots of learnings that we are doing. I mean, maybe William, you want to mention something about the debate with Nathan Schneider and Vitalik on financialization. That's really interesting. And there's different papers you can read about this as well.
Yeah, I mean, so I like people to read my sort of blog article talking about this. I think sort of limits and advantages of crypto economics. So Schneider's sort of wrote this, like, he's an academic, I think, at the University of Colorado, and he wrote an article sort of looking at what limits crypto economics imposes and like criticizing overly economic aspects of blockchain systems from this kind of perspective that people like philosophers and sociologists and various thinkers have often taken that if you have systems that are overly economic, that tends to corrode like other human social structures, which would otherwise be useful and like helpful things to capture in like broader human institutions. Like people have like strong notions in normal societies about like honor and duty that don't necessarily translate well into like financial applications. And he looks at cryptoeconomic systems and notices that they're like fairly financial, and thinks about like why aren't these sort of like social phenomena being better transcribed into blockchain applications. And Vitalik gave like an interesting sort of like response article to this, where he talks about like basically his argument is that things become financial when you can't prevent collusion. If you have that might be a mild simplification of his argument, but like when you have like sort of how to put this.
Yeah, it's in the. I mean, it's in the.
Yeah, you can read the article, but anyway. So yeah, you can all read this and get Vitalik's actual words. I'm so sorry for sort of hanging up on this.
I don't remember
basically that like. Yeah,
let me share this with you.
Yeah, but anyway, both of these people cite Kleros, and they ask questions about like, to what degree can like an economically incentivized court produce kind of similar outcomes to traditional courts? Like Vitalik points out that the sort of forking mechanism, that even though it's not like there's no internal mechanism to help people guide people in case of forks, you can still fork Kleros if you want. It's kind of an economic mechanism, but it's also kind of a social mechanism. So there is some element of society in that, and that like like how like what questions about like what can Kleros be compared to a court in a traditional country, like an actual country that sort of picks its judges through like Senate confirmation or something. It has like a really rigorous process and like has laws against them taking bribes. And how like to what degree can you reconstruct these incentives using cryptoeconomic means? Is that cheaper? Is it open to more small scale use cases? But it like also like what kinds of things can you like not get by using these kinds of mechanisms?
Yeah, this is a really big research field for us, and it's about figuring out what are the exact use cases for which Kleros can be adapted. We never said that Kleros was going to resolve everything. Kleros is going to be good for a number of use cases that we believe is going to be like really, really big in Web3 and possibly also beyond, but it's not going to resolve every use case. So it's fine. It's just to see this is a tool that has some things to which it can be applied and others not, and that's fine. I think Abir will have lots of thoughts about this as he's researching Kleros. And by the way, Abir, I have read your slides of the your PhD proposal. I love the slide about the Klerotarian. It's awesome.
Thanks a lot, Federico.
I need to answer to you. I got like in the backlog. I don't know if you have any comment about this, as this is what you are researching basically.
Yeah, it's a pretty complex topic, what exactly can Kleros resolve and not. There are obviously certain, hang-ups about what exactly can be, referred to a private dispute resolution mechanism in the first place, because, there are certain issues which have sort of, you can say they have knock-on effects on third parties. So these are some things which even generally you cannot refer to mediation or arbitration. So I think the same limitations would apply to, let's say, Kleros, and there's a wide variety of disputes, such as divorce disputes and so on. So that's one category of cases which you can look into and see whether a decentralized mechanism like Kleros can sort of deal with or not. And then there are, of course, other kinds of disputes where there may be value in allowing jurors and judges to follow their conscience and vote according to their conscience, rather than sort of coercing them to, vote in accordance with some like game theory principles or so on, and like we've been having this discussion on the Telegram group with regards to whether it would be appropriate to, sort of turn the entire peer review mechanism into a subset of Kleros disputes. And that's something that I have commented on about, I have my concerns about, about the effects on academia in a more broader light if we start, forcing people to go against their conscience and start deliberating from more of a financial lens. So I think there are a number of category of disputes along these lines where probably having a Kleros jury might not be appropriate.
I mean, the case of academia, when we discussed this, I also don't think I would use Kleros for assessing like a peer review of a paper. I would use Kleros in a part of that process for the desk when the editor reviews the paper and just sees if it's worth to send this to the reviewers to do like the more in-depth review. I mean, that editor is going to take a look at more like formal elements of whether the paper has the right extension or the right format for quotes or whatever. That's probably more suited for Kleros than the full review process, which is like way more complex. So there's also use cases of Kleros which happen within more complex arbitration procedures. I mean, you could use Kleros for assessing some factual element of a broader arbitration procedure. This is quite, we do get this question very often, people who are arbitrators from the construction industry, because they already have construction board panels and they say, yeah, we would like to have this external like expert witness review of whether the quality of the roof complies with what was in the contract. I mean, and they just want to close for this specific element of the process of the arbitration. So it's a very flexible tool that gives you an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage is that you have lots of things to explore. The disadvantage is that you have lots of things to explore, right? And so the hard part is for you to focus on exactly what are the use cases that will have more chances to succeed in the short run. And this debate about the crypto economics and what can be resolved through crypto economics means and what can't, well, it's part of this figuring out of what are the use cases where Kleros is likely to succeed and where it's probably not going to work. So it's part of our learning, and also part of that's the reason why we have such a strong research team, because we have to figure out lots of things that goes from legal elements to mathematics, vector of attacks, parameters, incentives. So it's quite complex, building this. So we're learning. So what can I say?
Yeah. So I was asking because the connection to Vitalik. Federico, because I guess it was like your decision at the beginning to build Kleros on Ethereum, wasn't it? For example, not on Cardano, because Cardano exists also since 2017. And I always hear we built on Ethereum because it was the most mature one. I mean, of course, back then it was like the most developed one, but were there some more points and aspects that came into your decision making, Federico, that you decided to build on Ethereum and not, for example, on Cardano?
Sorry, I think it cut from, I don't know if I can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. if it got on my side or yours, but I think I understood the question. It's about why we built Kleros on Ethereum. So
exactly,
Ethereum,
yeah.
I mean, Ethereum was at the moment we started, and I still, this is still true, the most widely used blockchain with smart contract capability. I think it has the widest, amount of apps built on top of it, and the strongest communities of builders. So we want the blood of Kleros is being connected to other apps in the ecosystem to resolve their claims or to curate their information or do other services that Kleros can provide. So I think this is still true. I don't know if this is going to be true in the future, but for now, I don't see another blockchain with large app ecosystem where there could be an important use of Kleros. But we are, as I always say, I mean, we are agnostic in the end. If other blockchains end up succeeding, well, I mean, we can go to wherever the users are. That's what we are here to do. We're here to provide that service, and so yeah, I mean, we are on. I mean, personally, I love Ethereum. I love the community, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to change in the future.
What do you think about Polkadot?
I don't have a very strong opinion. What I can tell is that we have spoken to all of the big projects that you might think of Ethereum killers. We have talked to all of them. They are quite interested in Kleros because something like Kleros doesn't exist in other blockchains. And eventually, well, we had already discussed this in the context of, I think, even in the community calls. The thing is, building different Kleros in different chains can weaken the resistance of Kleros to attacks. So because you start dividing the economic security, William can go into this deeper. But so to date, there's not a strong argument for Kleros to start developing on other blockchains. But this can change, and we are flexible to change if the reality of the market changes. I don't know if that was the answer you expected.
But
yeah, sure. Yeah.
Still, you know that you can still bridge Kleros rulings to other blockchains, assuming you have bridges that can transmit arbitrary messages. So the sort of vision that we have is that the court should be in one place, but it should be able to make rulings that go everywhere. But for that, you need good bridges. And a lot of the bridges that have been developed by sort of other projects are either only limited to tokens, or they have very limited, very specific sort of trust guarantee, models. But hopefully, the ecosystem of bridges also will continue to develop to allow Kleros to be more bridgeable.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a big part of I don't have an answer to this, but I mean, what I'm seeing is that lots of the discussions that are happening now, in generally speaking, in the blockchain ecosystem, is about it's lots about bridges. I read it the other day about someone saying that the next big crash of a project is going to be some bridge poorly built that's going to screw up everything. But hopefully it doesn't happen. But I mean, for us, it's not really a problem at the moment. At the moment, it's clear for us that Ethereum is the largest ecosystem, and that's where we need to be. Regarding the cost issues, we are addressing that with the rollup and all that, for V2. Of course, we want Kleros to have more cases, so we want Kleros to be cheaper for anyone to use it and to address lower value kind of claims. So that's what we are working on, and Ethereum seems to be able to provide that solution within its ecosystem. So for now, I don't see any other, any reason why we should change that.
There was no call for change. I was just interested in your decision making that you made from the beginning. That was all.
I mean, in the beginning, also I think that Kleros started like 5 years ago, so that was like 2017. So it's, imagine how early everything was. I mean, we even had to build a lot of the tooling that we used. Lots of things were not even there, and back then it was obvious that the only place where you could build something like Kleros was Ethereum. So it was actually, that was an easy choice, I have to say, back then, because there was not any competitor at that moment. So yeah, not a hard choice.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it for today, guys. Maybe Annabelle, you have some last words from you, if you want to say something about the events that are coming.
Yes. Hi everyone. There is one update on the in parallel to the event that we are organizing with API 3 and preparing. So you stay tuned for the guest list of this event. There is a link that we can share right now to register and participate to the ETHCC hack in Paris, which is 24th of July in the center of Paris. If you feel like checking the website and registering, then please do so. There is an on-site event with lots of workshops to participate to, and of course, if you were attending last year, you know that we'll do the best to accommodate you for the 3 days, 24/7 this time. So yeah, feel free to get back to me if you have any questions regarding to the ETHCC hackathon.
Do apply for that. That's going to be awesome.
We have gathered already a lot of French projects, but also rather big ones are getting on board to help the production be done as quick as possible and as beautifully as possible. If you also want to share the sponsor deck, we are going to share it in the chat, and we can still take a couple of them, especially if you want to propose a workshop, and also if you want to check on the bounties, stay tuned. They are going to be published on the hackathon website.
Thank you, Annabelle.
Thank you.
Well, and I guess that's it for today, guys. We'll see you on Telegram. Bye bye.
Bye bye, guys. See you next week.
Everyone. See you.
Jean, what's the